Good evening, everybody. Today is Thursday, April 30th, 2020. It is 5 p.m., and this is a Moscow City Council special meeting that we're having this evening. With that, I will, if you would all at home or wherever you're watching us, please rise with me. I'm going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, I do have a couple of comments before we get into our agenda item, and that is, it's a lot easier for me to see all counselors. I must apologize because I struggled on Tuesday night seeing everybody at their appropriate time, so I'll do my best to get each one of you as you wish to speak, and everybody will be involved in this evening's conversation. And of course, what we're doing, our item, we tabled an item on Tuesday night, and we are bringing that off the table right now so that we can talk about COVID-19 response and review discussion, and I will turn it over to Gary.
Thank you, Your Honor. We were just meeting here a couple of days ago to talk about the Governor's Rebound Idaho Plan and what effect, if any, it had on the City Council's resolutions 05, 06, and 07 from 2020 to determine whether the council wanted to do anything with those based upon those guidelines. We had expected the governor would issue an order, which is why we set that meeting for Tuesday. However, that turned out not to be the case. However, a great discussion was had regarding the guidelines themselves. So, as we had been informed that the governor was going to have further information available today, he issued his order for he calls it the Stay Healthy Order. I sent it out to everyone. It's available on the governor's website. And it actually puts the teeth in the guidelines that council was asking about on Tuesday. The teeth by that, and you heard Carol Murley, the director of the North Central Health District, indicate that without some sort of guiding order, which includes penalties, guidelines are merely guidelines. So people can choose to follow them, they can choose not to follow them, and there's really nothing that government or the regulatory agency can do about that. So the governor, as expected, and I will mention as well that the governor also issued protocols for daycares, places of worship, and
Youth activities,
and issued those as well. So what we've got now are the guidelines, the protocols, and the actual order itself, the Stay Healthy Order that was issued today. I also, before we get into the discussion any further, because we weren't sure what the order would say, we could not attach any sort of document to the City Council for their review. Since that time, since the order was issued this morning, we drafted a resolution that the council could choose to pass tonight, terminating the council's order or resolutions 05, 06, and 07, and would then expire at 11:59 tonight, coincidental with the governor's current stay home order. Then, of course, at 12 o'clock midnight on May 1st, the governor's stay healthy order will then take place and be effective. So you have that as well. I also provided the council with an amended proposed action, and I will read that. We are not amending the agenda, just proposing different actions. Review Governor Little's Rebound Idaho Order and determine whether to modify, extend, or terminate resolutions 2020-05, 2020-06, and 2020-07, and adopt a resolution of termination, or to leave such resolutions to expire on May 5th, 2020, or take such other action deemed appropriate. So that's the resolution I was just referring to. The governor issued his Stay Healthy Order today, as I indicated, and it provides additional both guidance and directives. I would note that Section 3 of that order indicates that the following businesses within the state of Idaho are required to remain closed except to perform minimum basic operations as defined in a different section. Bars and nightclubs are to remain closed during this phase or this stage. Restaurant dining rooms, except takeout and delivery, will also remain closed. Indoor gyms and recreation facilities to remain closed. Close contact services is, for example, hair salons, nail salons, massage parlors, cosmetic, etc., will also remain closed. And large venues, for example, movie theaters, concert venues, sporting venues, etc. There are also some advisories. One is that public and private gatherings should be avoided. So that is something that is not as directory as it could be. There are some required and mandatory pieces here that business and governmental agencies may resume operations at physical locations, except those businesses that I just defined. All businesses must adhere to social distancing and sanitation requirements as described in Section 7 of the order. That is required and mandatory. Those gatherings I just mentioned, public and private, continue to self-isolate. Those are guidelines. So there is no penalty affiliated with that. Non-essential travel should be avoided or minimized. Again, advisory. Individuals arriving from Idaho or in Idaho from another state or country are to be self-quarantined. That is required. Individuals shall maintain at least 6 feet physical distance from other individuals whenever possible. That is required and mandatory. However, the term whenever possible is open to some interpretation as well. Then the the guidelines about increased hygiene practices, washing, that sort of thing, washing your hands, stay home if sick, use face coverings. Masks are not mandatory under this order. And then they have some directory information for employers. Employers shall develop and implement measures to ensure employees and customers are maintaining 6-foot physical distancing. They'll provide adequate sanitation and personal hygiene for employees, vendors, and patrons, and will frequently disinfect commonly touched and high traffic areas and regularly clean those areas. Employers should, and these are advisory, identify personal use items such as a mask, face coverings, and gloves may be required by employees, vendors, and or patrons. Provide services while limiting close interactions with patrons. Identify strategies for addressing ill employees. On a case-by-case basis, include other practices appropriate for specific types of businesses, such as screening of employees for illness and exposures upon work entry, requiring non-cash transactions, etc., and implement additional protocols established in the governor's guidelines for opening up Idaho and the business-specific protocols published at rebound.idaho.gov that I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation. So with that, right now we have resolutions in place that are in effect until May 5th. The governor issued his order today. So we are here to ask the council what their pleasure is with what they wish to do with the current resolutions.
Okay, with that being said, before I ask for counselors to comment, I also wanted to point out one other thing, Gary, and that was item number 12 under this health order that the Healthy State Idaho, the order that Governor Little put out. Item number 12, each county and each city must promptly provide copies of the order as follows. 1, by posting the order on its website. 2, by posting the order at each county courthouse and each city hall. And 3, by providing a copy to any member of the public requesting it. And I mention those things because we do have one on our door right now at City Hall, so that those that want to be able to read that, they can't find any other way. These are the different ways that they can actually pick this up and read it for themselves. And with that, I'll open it up for council. Who would like to go first? Don't be bashful, because I'm going to ask everyone. Art.
Yeah, I'll go first. Right out the gate, I'd like to thank all the citizens here in Moscow for their really good work in helping with this crisis and helping keep the city at a very low level. In fact, no cases. And the point being there is they've been patient, they've worked with the city, they've worked with the resolutions, and they should be commended for that. However, we can't go on forever being shut down. We got to reopen sometime. And until there's a vaccine out there, there will always be cases floating around. So I think a staged recovery as proposed by the governor is a good approach to doing this, to try to get things rolling again, but without going overboard and just throwing open the floodgates. So I am in support of doing away with the resolutions that we just passed and follow the governor's guidelines as he proposed today and as we've just discussed.
Okay, thank you. Art. Brandy.
Yeah, I would just like to add on to that we have really no choice but to follow the governor's order today. So that's the first thing that I just want to make clear to everyone. Those restrictions that are in place in this stage, we must follow those, the ones that Gary had outlined and that are in that first phase. I also think that his whole plan, I looked into his advisory groups that he has. It's a great diversity of experts from healthcare, large business owners, small business owners. He's got there's a lot of people advising the governor that went into this plan and all the different stages of it. And I don't think I can find any more valid information by looking on YouTube or looking on Facebook or talking to people about their opinions. And this is a very diverse group of people advising the governor. So I don't think we can do any better than that. And I feel it's appropriate to discontinue where we are right now. But I also think it's very important, probably the most important thing as we go forth with this gradual rollout is that the protocol for the stages that should be followed every step of the way to ensure success moving forward are made very well known. That these are the things that Gary mentioned are not necessarily enforceable, but in my opinion, these are the things that if we all come together as employers and as citizens and as customers and do our best to follow these things, we can successfully move through these stages more likely than if we just choose to disregard them. So I think if there's some role that the city might have in helping, like you said, I don't know if it was you, Bill, or Gary, but getting that information out there, I think it was you, Bill, on the website, but really helping people to know that just if these ordinances are discontinued, they in a way are being replaced by the statewide order, and it doesn't mean the floodgates open, and there are specific things that should be followed.
Thank you, Brandy. Maureen, I think you beat Sandra, then I'll go to Sandra.
I agree that we should follow the governor's protocols as well as the order, and I do think that they're really well written and sound judgment and had a good team of people working on them. The issue for me is that in order for this to work, we really encourage businesses as well as patrons to follow the shoulds, because things like wearing a mask is important, mainly because people are, when you open up your business, you've got to make people feel confident that they can come in there and they're going to be safe. So it's really in businesses and staffs and as well as patrons to make people feel like it's okay to walk into businesses. They've been closed down. There's a fear factor, and we need to instill confidence for people to go back into the shops and use them. And I think the best way to do that is following some of those recommendations, such as wearing masks, keeping distances, washing your hands, wearing gloves if you want to. So that's my biggest concern, is making sure that we do not have an outbreak because people don't comply with the shoulds.
Thank you, Maureen. And Sandra, you were next.
Thank you, Mayor. I mean, first of all, yes, I mean, I think Art said it great when he said it's time to start easing into things. And I have to admit, it's a little scary to ease in. And yet I'm also excited to start easing in because I think with everyone out there, all we're ready to start getting back. And early on, when this first started, I won't forget that our very first emergency meeting, we said we hope that when we put this in place, we're going to look back and say, wow, nothing bad happened. And, you know, we've had a lot of letters, and I am thankful for those letters and emails that come in. We've had a lot of support, and then we've had a few complaints. We've had a lot of people saying, we just want to get back to business. And to all those folks listening, we want to get back to business too. And I say that because it's really easy to jump and be like, all right, it's sunny out, it's warm, we're just going to go and throw caution to the wind because we're just so excited to get out. And so we do need to be careful of that. We said early on, let's hope that we look back on this and go, yeah, nothing bad happened. 5 cases and no community spread. I'm so relieved at that. And I think, so hats off to the community of Moscow for buckling down and going along with all of this. And hats off to the businesses out there that figured out ways to do curbside deliveries and the grocery stores that did curbside deliveries and to find ways to help this happen. We know it hasn't been easy and it's been hard to watch, and we have all tried to be supportive. And so it is time to get back, but to do so cautiously. And whether, like Maureen said, with masks or with gloves or whatever, but maintain that distance. We don't know who are carriers still. And it'd be really easy to go down that slope and all of a sudden have community spread. And then we're back, not even at square one, we're in the negatives. So I hope we can all be cautious with this. Let's not flaunt it. Let's not take advantage of a situation. Let's be really smart about how we do this. Let's continue to band together as a really great community and to take care of one another. We do a great job of taking care of each other, and I want to continue to do that. If we can continue to do that, then we're going to be able to go through these stages and open up until a vaccine does come along, and that will help tremendously. So I am in support of this, and I just urge everyone to do it at a smart, safe, socially distanced level.
Okay, thank you, Sandra. We got 2 more counselors. We got Ann and we got Gina. Which one of you would like to go first? Gina, you have the floor.
I echo the words of my preceding counselors tonight. I say the shoulds are less of a suggestion and more of a let's try this, let's do this. There are some fun masks we can wear. This can be a city bonding moment, just like this shutdown really has ended up being. It's been hard, it's been ugly, and I miss the yarn underground, but it was necessary because look at what we accomplished. We've accomplished 5 cases, no spread. Here we are. So the next phase might be a little awkward, but it'll get us to stage 2, and we can start opening up some other things and taking these moments to celebrate as a community what we are accomplishing or not in this case. So I see absolutely no compelling reason to not remove our orders and just embrace this and move forward so that we can get back to business as usual in our great community.
Thank you, Gina. Ann?
I don't really have a lot to add, just to, I think, echo what everyone else has said. I mean, I appreciate all of the sacrifices that people are making to try and keep one another safe. I appreciate the leadership and agree with the staged opening approach. And I am looking forward to just seeing some more of that activity as people are, try to safely re-enter. So yeah, I don't really have a ton else to add. I'm excited for those next steps.
Thank you, Ann. Okay, Brandy, and then Gina.
Yeah, okay, I just want to add too that at this point, I feel hearing everyone talk about our successes and hearing from many people about we've done so well here, can't we get going? And I understand that wanting to start opening up. And the great thing is that with this plan, it's gradual. I feel like our finish line is in sight. And just to again repeat that, please, let's not blow it. We need everybody out there to do their part so that this can be a temporary situation. The end of this 4 stages that the governor has is the end of June. In some ways, that's a long ways off, but it is close when you think about how it could go into the fall. And nobody wants that to happen. Everybody's sacrificed and been patient so far. I know everyone's starting to get impatient. These are 2-week increments. Just take it 2 weeks at a time. We can do this. Everybody's got to be on board and do their part so we can continue to move through.
Thank you, Brandy. Gina?
If everybody's ready, I'd like to make a motion to remove our emergency orders. Gary, how do I do that with the right verbiage? Unmute yourself.
Lori's going to have to unmute him.
Lori, unmute him.
I can help you with this too.
Okay.
Okay, Gary, go ahead.
So, you would make a motion to terminate resolutions 2020-05, 2020-06, and 2020-07, and adopt a resolution of termination. And that resolution has been provided to you, and it's in the hands of the city clerk.
So I make a motion that we terminate 2020-05, 2020-06, and 2020-07, and that we adopt a termination resolution that was previously handed out to us. Amen.
Okay. Maureen. Maureen did a second. She gave me the peace sign, so Maureen's got the second. Okay. We've got a motion by Gina and a second by Maureen to terminate resolutions 2020-05, 2020-06, 2020-07, and adopt a resolution of termination. And I will start the roll. Brandy, you got something you want to say before we take a roll?
I do. Thank you. Thank you, Bill. So the only thing I would like us to discuss with this is that section number 2 of it. I would be in favor of wording that a little more strongly than we encourage people to continue the social distancing. I know that it is, they are protocols and suggestions provided by the governor, but if we can say something like, even referring our community to the basic practices outlined in the Idaho Rebounds Plan that includes the strategies for citizens and employers, a couple of which are listed there, like the social distancing. I don't know if maybe Gary or someone else has a suggestion for how we can just make that section a little bit stronger to stress the importance and of everyone following that.
Gary, I'm gonna go to Gary on this, and then I'll go to you, Maureen. Gary, comment on that. I'm not. Brandy was referring to section number 2.
Yep.
I'm guessing of the governor's orders. How I understand that.
Actually, section 2 of our proposed resolution. So Brandy, we can certainly put whatever we want in there. The citizens are still obligated to follow the Rebound Idaho order. So we could, I don't know how we could say, we could list them all out. We could make a reference. If we make a reference, then I need to attach the order to this. Could do something as simple as saying encourages citizens to continue to practice. I'd have to think about. I'm sorry. When I was going through that, I was looking at what was being focused on, and that was that at the time. I'm sorry.
I'm going to go to Maureen. She had her hand up, and
Well, one of my suggestions is that we take the language from 7 of the governor's order, which says individuals shall maintain at least 6 feet physical distancing from other individuals whenever possible. I mean, that language that says you shall do this, and it has to be a major excuse not to do that. That language is pretty strong. And
okay,
I think
Gina.
that's the perspective that I would like to have it have in there.
Gina had something she wanted, so let's go to Gina. I can't hear you, Gina. We're going to have to, Lori's going to have to, no volume on Gina.
I think Lori wielded her power.
Okay,
I hear you, and I totally, completely agree, but we're not changing anything as far as the rule of law here, and even saying it in ours doesn't really do anything other than say it in ours, because the governors tell us, period. The governor's rules tell us what to do. So are we wanting just to repeat that in ours, or is it necessary? I don't know. I'm willing to discuss it. I'm
okay.
that's my question.
Let's go to Gary.
Okay, having looked at that, and thank you for the suggestion, Maureen. We can definitely, the council can pass the resolution tonight with the direction that we replace section 2 with a recital of what is included in the governor's order under section 7, entitled social distancing and sanitation. If we put that language within here, we won't have to attach the copy of the order. So, and if I can read that so everybody knows what they're voting on. Individuals shall maintain at least 6 foot physical distancing from other individuals whenever possible. B, individuals should wash hands with soap and water for at least 20 seconds as frequently as possible, or use hand sanitizer. Cover coughs or sneezes into the sleeve or elbow, not hands. Regularly clean high-touch surfaces and not shaking hands. Stay home if sick, and are strongly encouraged to use face coverings while in public.
Okay, I'd have to ask Gina, who made the motion, and Maureen, who seconded the motion, if that would be fine with them, because they were the motion makers.
I am fine with that. I will amend my motion to include the section 7 of the governor's order.
How about you, Maureen? You were the seconder.
The one thought, I haven't figured out, Gary, how to put in there, but I think masks are really critical. And so I'm trying to figure out if there's a way to put 7D into that equation as well.
We could, if I could read the,
7D1 in particular is the one that,
okay. If it makes the council more comfortable, we could include the entirety of section 7, which also has mandatory employer directives and also has recommended employer actions. And again, they're in the governor's order. Putting it in this order or putting it in this resolution will not make it any more or less effective. It's just saying the council's policy is that you pay special attention to that. And if you like, I could read that as well.
Okay, before I go to you, Gina, Brandy had her hand up while I call on Gary, and then I'll go back to you, Gina.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I do think that there's value of having it in there. I know, and I understand what you're saying too, Gina, and it is sort of repetitious, but I think since I'm hearing from all of us that we really feel people understanding that while some of these things aren't legally binding orders, they are protocols that we really need to follow to be successful. And I think if we don't put them right in there, there's a risk that some people will miss that altogether. And
Okay,
so
good.
that's why I think it's worth putting it in there.
Okay, Gina, I'll go to you now.
I completely agree. You know, repetition does not hurt. I tend to land on the side of less words and brevity. And if this will help us make it to stage 2 and stage 3 and stage 4 by saying this one extra time, I'm in. So I will amend my motion to include all of section 7, including the 7D and 7D or E1 or whatever Maureen was mentioning earlier, so that we are very clearly repeating what the governor is saying as far as protocols that are necessary.
Okay, Maureen, are you fine with that as a second or two?
I am, and I'd like to add to what Brandy said. And part of it is when someone picks up the document, they can see everything right inside our document. They don't have to go to that section 7 in the governor's order. And so whether they read it in the governor's order or they read it here, whichever document they pick up will in fact say the same language. So with that said, I approve the amendment.
Okay, before I ask for a roll, Gary's got his hand up. Gary, does this work with all the amendments and things that we did?
It works, and at the risk of boring you, I believe that this needs to be read because the council is adopting it as a policy. So with your permission, Your Honor, I'd like to read those 2 sections.
That would be fine.
Okay, in addition to the previous section that I read, the amended resolution will now include under the same section 2, employers shall develop and implement measures to ensure employees and customers are maintaining at least 6-foot physical distancing from other individuals whenever possible, provide adequate sanitation and personal hygiene for employees, vendors, and patrons, frequently disinfect commonly touched and high traffic areas and regularly clean those areas, and employers should identify how personal use items such as masks, face coverings, and gloves may be required by employees, vendors, and/or patrons, provide services while limiting close interactions with patrons, identify strategies for addressing ill employees, which should include requiring COVID-19 positive employees to stay at home while infectious, and may include employees who are directly exposed to the COVID-19 positive employee away from the workplace, and the closure of the business until the location can be properly disinfected. On a case-by-case basis, include other practices appropriate for specific types of businesses, such as screening of employees for illness and exposures upon work entry, requiring non-cash transactions, etc., and implement additional protocols established in the governor's guidelines for opening up Idaho and the business-specific protocols published at rebound.idaho.gov.
Okay, everybody got that? Is there any further discussion before okay, Maureen's got something she would like to add.
I just got a message from someone that pointed out to me, which is the governor's order is the baseline and the city is not bound by only being limited. So that if anybody on the council wants to make anything more stringent, they may do so. I also think that encouraging people very strongly to follow these shalls, the shoulds, is really important. And I think that it helps us move to the next section.
And I think that has been strongly suggested and talked about all. Okay, Brandy, you have something?
Yes, so what you just said, Maureen, makes me think about, all these shoulds, which are not any violation of any laws. And even we've had some discussions and there's varying opinions from members of our community of what our law enforcement should be doing. And here, as in many other places in Idaho and many places in the country, what seems to make the most sense is not arresting a lot of people and throwing them in jail, because that creates a lot of problems. But an educational approach, which is, how, from what I have seen so far, how our law enforcement is managing things with an educational approach. And I would hope that even with these shoulds, that there will be a role for law enforcement to continue to sort of intervene in an educational way. What is your thoughts on that, Gary?
Well, government has to be careful. Law enforcement can educate, and we will continue to do that. That's our community policing policy. that we've had in place for over 25 years. Law enforcement may not, however, be used to intimidate or harass. And should is advisory, not directory. So certainly the education component can certainly be pursued, but should it go the next step and someone feels like, well, if I don't do this, the police are going to harass me, intimidate me, or arrest me, that would not be allowed. So I don't anticipate our police will have any problems providing education without going that extra step.
Thank you, Gary. Well, with that all being said, I guess we're ready to take a roll call, and I will start that with Brandy.
Aye.
Arthur,
Aye.
Sandra,
Aye.
Maureen,
Aye.
Gina,
Aye.
and Ann.
Aye.
Okay, thank you very much for that. So we do have this resolution in front of us, the new State of Idaho Department of Health and Welfare Stay Healthy Order that will be issued and be effective at 12:01 a.m., May the 1st, 2020. And I just want to make a couple of comments before I ask for closure. First off, I want to thank our staff for the wonderful work. We are in our 6th week with what our emergency order was that I declared a number of weeks ago. I want to thank the staff for that. I want to thank all of the city council for all their diligence and works. We have met, you got to remember this, we've had 4 meetings in March, we've had 4 meetings in April, so we've done a very good job with this. We've taken it very, very serious. I also want to thank our public, our citizens in the city of Moscow. I think they've done a wonderful job. And we have got a very bright, well-educated community, and I have no doubt that this community will be strong. They will stay strong as we're working together to open us up over this next 8 weeks. That people will follow these rules, regulations, and all the shells out there. I know businesses are going to do that, and the reason I know that's going to happen is because if they don't, there's a lot in our community that will clearly be pointing that out. And so with that, I thank everybody for their diligence, their hard work. And with that, I would look for a motion to adjourn this meeting this evening. Gina made the motion. Do I have a second? Sandra made the second. I'll start the roll with Brandy.
Aye.
Okay, Art,
Aye.
Sandra,
Aye.
Maureen,
Aye.
Gina,
Aye.
and Ann.
Aye.
Thank you all very much. We will adjourn this meeting at 5:38.